All right, hello animators. All right, how's everybody doing this week? Awesome. So I see a lot of people from last week, and I see some new faces too. That's awesome. So this week we are focusing on doing animation walks. Last week was just kind of like an intro squash and stretch kind of thing. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go through the basic poses that are in every walk, and we're going to talk a little bit about timing as well. So some of this might be review for you if you've already had like a introduction animation class. You'll probably have already seen a lot of this information. So one thing you can do if you've already done a walk test that's like say 8 frames or something like that, you can try to do it just with different timing. So like maybe instead of an 8-frame walk, you can do a 12-frame walk or 16-frame walk or something like that. If you've never done a walk before and you don't know what I'm talking about, this class is going to be for you. So you can just follow step by step. I'm going to go through each of the poses. And then also for the next 2 days, Daryl's going to have a class on Wednesday, and then Boogie is going to have another class on Thursday as well. So you can also reinforce a lot of these concepts. Let me turn on the chat. I'm just going to give, okay, cool. All right, welcome. I saw a lot of people just popped in. Good to see you. Was everybody able to see the other 2 classes last week? Yeah, all right, cool, very cool. Okay, I have the same setup over here. So I am going to be drawing the animation again today, and then I don't know how far I'm gonna get. I'm gonna show you the main poses, and the way I like to divide it up is I will focus on the legs first, just to keep it nice and simple and bite-sized, and then I'll do the rest of the body and the arms. And then the different timings you'll get with using different in-betweens. So why don't, Scott, can you pull up the image for me of the legs? Thank you. All right, so these are the 4 basic type of poses that go into every walk cycle, whether it's a fast walk or a slow walk or what have you. It starts out with the contact pose. The reason it's called a contact pose is because both feet are making contact with the ground. So I usually start there. That's the first pose. And then after that is the down pose. Right, so the knee bends, that's the actual like stepping down. And then after that is what is called the passing position. It just says pass on the image, but it's called a passing position. And what's happening in this one is the leg that was behind the character is starting to pass and come in front of the character. So that's why it's called the passing position. After that, the pose is called the up position. If you will notice, the character is actually up on their toes a little bit for the leg that's making contact with the ground. And then the other leg is starting to swing forward, and it's preparing to kick forward and then make contact with the ground, and then that's going to become the next step, the next contact pose. So that's really all there is to it, is these 4 poses: contact down, passing position up, and then it repeats again, contact down, passing position up, over and over again. What changes is the difference in timing. So don't worry if you haven't copied this down yet. I am going to draw this on the camera again if you want to copy it down later. I'm going to show you 3 examples of the same walk and all the same drawings, just with different timing. So you can see how we can use those same poses to get very different energy levels with our walk. So the first walk is going to be an 8-frame walk. What that means is between the contact poses, between each step, between each contact pose, there is 8 frames. So you can see it's quite fast, right? It's like a speed walk. The character's kind of racing along. The advantage to this pose is you only have to put one in between, one extra drawing in between each of the main poses. So it's really easy and really fast to do. But again, it is very fast. It's faster than what a normal person would walk. A normal pace is about 12 frames per second. Scott, can we change to the 12 frames? There you go. So a little bit slower. Again, all the same drawings. The only difference is instead of one in between each of the main poses, there are two between each of the main poses. So it goes a little bit slower. And then I also have a 16 frame walk. So that is 3 drawings in between each of the main poses, right? So starting to go really slow now. So again, all the same drawings, but they have very different energy. 16 is more work because you have to do more drawings in between each frame. So if you're just starting out, you might want to try to do an 8 frame walk. So that's just the 4 main poses and then an in-between drawing in between each of the main poses. So I'm gonna draw the main poses over here on my camera if you want to follow along with me. I'm gonna do the main poses and try to get that all done and then see about doing some in-betweens first. We always wanna leave the in-betweens for last. Are there any questions before I get started with the drawing part? I saw a couple of people came in a little late, so I wanna make sure everybody's clear on what we're doing. Yeah, Harley, did you have any questions on walks? I'm just going to show you the main poses for drawing a walk cycle.
Well, I'm really sorry for coming in late. I forgot I was going to take this class.
No worries. Do you have any questions before I start? Anything you're curious about before I start drawing the example?
I don't know if I have any questions.
Okay, cool. Yeah, just let me know.
Okay.
If anybody has questions, just let me know. So I'm again starting just drawing the legs just to make it a little bit easier. And then I like to just use a circle to start out with. Hopefully I can get the whole character on camera. So just a small rough circle. And again, I'm going to treat the legs just kind of like bones. So let's say maybe the leg starts here. Make it kind of a long-legged character. And then for the back leg, I'm going to use a different color just to make it more visible. Let me draw the ground. Always give yourself guidelines. Don't try to guess. So the blue leg is the leg closest to the camera or the closest to the audience. And then the red leg is the leg behind. That's why I didn't draw all of it. I want it to be kind of behind the circle, and the circle represents the body of my character. If you want to jump ahead, if you've already had a class with me before and you've done all these poses, you can go ahead and draw your own character design on here. I'm just going to keep things simple and do my little stick leg circle guide for right now. And then maybe we'll get more refined later on. So again, this is called the contact pose. Both feet, heel and toe, are making contact with the ground. And then I usually put my frames up here, but I'm going to put my frames down here. This is going to be frame number 1. When I do my first pass, sometimes it's helpful just draw basic shapes, and then again I'm just drawing the bones, so like a stick man. type drawing just to get something down. And then I'll shoot it, or if I'm working on the computer, I'll just play it back. And then if I like it, I'll get more and more refined later on. That's when I would draw like the actual legs. All right, if you still need this contact pose on the camera, raise your hand. Cool. So I am moving on to the down pose. Now, part of the down pose, when we walk, our head doesn't stay stationary the entire time when we walk. Let me just pretend that this is a character and that this is the character's head. When we walk, the head doesn't stay level. It looks really unnatural. What actually happens is you step down and then up, and it kind of follows this pattern of the head bobbing up and down as the character walks. So to account for that, I'm not going to trace the circle in the same place. I'm going to draw it a little bit lower, but I want to keep it the same size and the same shape. So again, I'm being very rough, and I'm looking at the drawing that I did before. So if you're working on the computer and you have an onion skin feature, use your onion skin feature. Let me turn on the light because you cannot see that on camera. So here's the top of the circle on frame 1 on the contact pose. So I just drew it down a little bit lower. And I'm going to start the leg a little bit lower. So everything gets shifted down. And then the knee is going to bend. Another thing that's happening, you can see the ghost image of drawing number 1. The heel was over there. Now the heel is over here. This is called a treadmill walk. So what's going to happen when I play it back is just like the example I showed you where the character looks like it's walking in place, sort of like on a treadmill. The way we do that is every frame, this foot is going to look like it's sliding back. We're going to draw it backwards further and further along this line of the ground. But when we play it back, it's going to look like the character's walking in place. So we don't keep the heel at the same spot. We don't keep the body at the same spot. And then I'm going to draw the red leg also with a bent knee. And then the foot is starting to come up off of the ground. I sometimes have trouble keeping my legs the same length. That's why the guideline helps a lot. But then I also will go back and kind of measure with my fingers to keep those shapes consistent. This is back in perspective, so the leg is going to look a little bit shorter, even though it's not, it's the same length. Now, if you're doing an 8-frame walk, this is going to be frame number 3. If you're doing a 12-frame walk, it's going to be frame number 4, because you need to have 2 in-betweens between each main pose. And then if you're doing a 16-frame walk, it's going to be frame number 5, because then you'll have 3. So I'm just going to do this as if it's an 8-frame walk. So
I have a question.
Yeah.
Why are you doing the second page and calling it 3? It's just confusing me a little bit.
Yeah, I'll repeat it. So this is going to be an 8-frame walk. So we're going to have the 4 main poses. But if we just played the 4 main poses, it would go too fast. You wouldn't be able to tell what's going on. So we have to put an in-between drawing in between each of the main poses to kind of smooth it out. So it'll still be really fast, but there will be a number 2 drawing that I'm going to do later in between these 2, right? So I'm just doing the key poses first, and then I'll go back and then do all the in-between drawings. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah, cool. All right. Hand up if you still need the down pose on the camera. Okay, thanks, Harley.
There's a question in the chat. If we're doing it digitally, how many frames per second would you recommend for this project?
24. 24 is the standard for animation. So even if you're just learning, try doing it 24. Some people will lower the frame rate because they can get away with doing less drawings. And then if you're not used to animating, you can't really tell. So some people use 12 or 8 or sometimes even lower to try to get away with using less drawings. But if you're really serious about animation and learning how timing works, just stick to 24. You never have to change frame rate, and then you'll actually learn how to time things so you can kind of do it in your head easier, which is really hard when you're first starting out. So yeah, everything that I do, I'm timing for 24 frames per second. For those of you who are working digitally and can put in different frames per second. Yes, thank you for the question. That is a very good question. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and put in the next pose. I'm just gonna redraw my line for the ground. And then this is called the passing position. Some people abbreviate it as pass or PP. Sometimes you'll see it with like the letter P and the letter P. That's what it stands for. So for the passing position, the body is going to go back up to where, kind of about where it was at frame number 1, maybe a little bit higher. So I've turned my light on so I can see through to the first frame that I did. And I'm basically tracing the circle from frame 1. And then the blue leg, that front leg, is going to be straight up and down. And again, that heel is sliding backwards. So here's where the heel was for frame 3 for the down pose. And here's the heel for the passing position. And then the reason it's called a passing position is this red leg is going to switch. So from now on, that leg is going to be going forward in front of the character. So that's about right. So that back leg is completely off the ground. The leg that's closest to the viewer is just straight up and down. And then keeping with my 8 frame walk cycle, this is going to be frame number 5. So all my key poses are going to be on the odd number frames, and then all my in-betweens are going to be on the even number frames. But again, that just depends on your timing. If you're doing a 12 frame walk cycle, if you want to try that, then it's going to be different. You're going to have some key poses on even frames and some key poses on odd frames, which is why animators will tend to stick to the 8 frame walk cycle, just because it's a little easier to divide up. Yes, Harley.
Isn't this number 3?
So this is drawing number 3, but it is frame number 5. So we're not doing all the frames in order.
I'm sorry, I didn't know that. I came into this class late.
Oh, no worries, no worries. Yeah, so what I'm doing is the timing for an 8 frame walk cycle is what I'm showing you. So we do the key poses first, and then we're going to put drawings in between on the even number frames. Are you working digitally or are you working on paper?
Paper.
Paper? Okay, yeah, that's not a big deal. So instead, so you can keep going in order if you want to, and then if you can just, what I'm going to do is slip in paper in between all of these drawings to draw my in-betweens. So you can keep going the way you're going. And then if you're in a booklet, you can just slip in drawings in between for the even number drawings. But you're right that this is the third, it's the third drawing, but the fifth frame.
I'm so sorry for coming in late.
No, no worries, no worries. Okay, who needs this drawing of the passing position up longer? Can you raise your hand? Okay, so this is going to be our up pose. So what's happening with this one, it's like walking, it's kind of like you're falling and then catching yourself at the last second. So the character is like, this red leg is swinging forward and the character is kind of tipping up on its toes, and then the red leg is going to catch itself right before it falls. So for the body, I'm going to have it go up. Some people have it go up and a little bit forward as well. So here's about where that circle was before on the previous frame. And then I'm drawing it a little bit higher. Oh, I should label this up. So the leg's gonna start a little bit higher. The blue leg is still pretty straight. And the character's kind of on its toes. Yeah. This is kind of my shorthand for a foot. So you have a toe and then the heel over here. But feel free to draw whatever style you're more comfortable with. You don't have to draw the same way that I do. And so this red leg is swinging out. And I'm thinking about this foot here, because this is the foot that's going to come out and make contact with the ground. And again, for our 8-frame walk cycle timing, this is going to be frame 7. Again, odd number frames. So it's the 4th drawing, the 4th pose, but the 7th frame. Okay, please raise your hand if you need the up pose on the camera still. Very cool. All right. So we have reached the end of this step. I'm going to put my paper down. So the next pose is going to be the contact pose again. But instead of having the blue leg be forward and the red leg be back, it's going to be reversed. Actually, let me make sure. I want to make sure I have the body in the same place as frame number 1. So I'm going to take all of my papers off except frame number 1. And then I'm just going to trace this circle. I got it a little bit too big. And then blue leg is going to be going back And then red leg is going to go forward with the heel touching the ground like that. And this is going to be frame 9 for our 8-frame walk cycle. So because I labeled my drawings, even though they're kind of in different stacks right now, if I'm on top of numbering all of my drawings, I can take these off and then redo them. If I want this to cycle back over again, you know, like I can put them in a random order. If I'm working on my in-betweens, I can just grab any 2 that I want to work on. And because they're labeled, I can always put them back into the correct order again. Yeah, Harley, did you need the drawing back up or?
Yes, that's the first thing I was going to say. And the second thing is, I thought we were doing 8 poses, and now we're on number 9. I don't understand.
So it's 4 poses. There's 4 poses to a walk cycle. It's called an 8-frame walk cycle because between this step, this contact pose, and this contact pose where the legs are switched, there's 8 frames in between those. So 1 + 8 is 9. So that's why it's called an 8-frame walk cycle.
With 9 instead of 8, I mean, I really don't understand.
1 + 8 is 9. There's 8 frames in between. 8 frames in between 1 and 9. So like you don't count the first one. It's just the ones in between. Nope, I forgot to draw this. Yeah, that's just what they call it. Sometimes there's 12 frames in between. So you'd have one contact pose on frame 1, and then you'd have the next contact pose on frame 13. But there's 12 frames in between those 2 contact poses. So they call it a walk cycle in 12s. So we're going to repeat the same pattern, contact down, passing position up. But instead of the blue leg like sliding backwards, the red leg is going to be sliding backwards. So they're the exact same type of poses. We're just switching the legs from here on out. Does anybody need this contact pose? All right, cool. So I'm going to take off frame number 1 because I don't need that for right now. And then I'm only going to use frame 9 for my onion skin. So this is going to be the next down pose. There is the ground. And then just like before with the other down pose, the circle is going to be a little bit lower because the body is stepping down. And then both knees are going to be bent. For the blue leg, just like before, the foot is coming off of the ground. And again, with that red leg, the knee is bent, and then here's the heel for the contact pose. And for the down pose, it's shifted back a little. So with the sliding foot that we did last time, It's going to be the same deal, just with the red leg now instead of the blue leg. I'm going to fix this shape a little bit. And then this would go on frame 11 for an 8-frame walk cycle. Okay, does anybody need this pose up for longer? All right, looks like we're good. Okay, so this is the next passing position. I'm going to turn my light on so I can see where the body was before. And basically just tracing the circle that was on frame 9. Now the blue leg is going to be passing the red leg. So the knee's still bent. And the red leg is going to be straight up and down with that heel still sliding backwards along the ground, like that. Hopefully we're not getting bigger. And then this would be frame 13. I'll have to go back afterwards. If you want to draw another character over it, that's good too. But I think if I was going to shoot this, I'd have to go back and like check that the circle isn't getting bigger or smaller. I tend to draw things bigger and bigger as I go through my animation. And then you just got to go back and fix it. Whoops. No. Let me get another pencil. All right, does anyone need the passing pose up longer? Cool, so we only have one more main pose, and that is the up pose, and then we are done for the main poses. So our circle is going to be shifted up. Blue leg swinging forward, and it's about to hit the ground. The red leg is sliding backwards, and the heel is kind of coming up because it's about to be lifted off the ground as well. Not lifted off the ground, it's about to push backwards. And then this is frame 15. So after this, if we've done the treadmill right, the next frame, instead of a frame 17, it would just be the next contact pose that we started out with on frame 1, and then it loops. So yeah, I definitely made this circle got bigger. I'll have to go back and fix it. Okay, does anybody need this pose up for longer? Cool. Okay, did we want to break for people to show things, or should I just jump right into arms? I'm gonna reorder my drawings here.
Laura can share in a minute.
Okay. Was anybody ready to share now? Because I know I don't want to run out of time if people have things they want to share.
I'd like to share it, but I just have to get it ready. So you should probably do another person while I get it ready.
Laura, were you ready? Nice. So it looks like you're missing some of the poses. I see a contact and a down. Okay, so it looks like when I'm looking down below, it looks like for your passing position, the foot is still connected with the ground when it should be up. And then I think you're missing the up pose. So I would go back through and then see which, where the feet are touching the ground and where they should be lifted up off the ground. Because I think you got the contact pose and the down pose, right? And I would go back through for the other two and see if you got those. Cindy, I see your hands up.
Okay. I got all the main poses in, and I started adding the first couple in betweens, but I haven't got very far.
No worries.
So let me see if I can get this to play.
Excellent, real solid. Yeah, and I like that you've like given it pants and stuff, so a little more like a character instead of a stick figure.
He's kind of grooving a little bit.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It moves fast, and if you just want to move slow, you just add more.
I think I set it to 8 frames. Yeah, so it's kind of slow and smooth.
Oh, the frames per second is 8 frames?
That's right. Yeah.
Okay, yeah,
That's why he's going so slow.
Yeah, okay. All right, Tater Tot, got your hand up?
Hello, you probably know the drill by now. Give me a sec to pull whatever this is up. Yep. Not sure how well it's showing on your end, but
I can see it, yeah, yeah. So it's a little bodiless body
I don't
here.
really know what I was doing.
No worries. It looks a little like a skip. I don't know if you intended for the
Yeah,
walk.
I didn't intend for that, but I kind of like it, so.
Yeah, no, sometimes you have happy accidents like that where, whatever works. If it works, it works. All right, did anybody else want to share before I move on to arms?
Yes, I'd like to share.
Nathaniel, yay, okay.
Yay!
We're ready for Nathaniel.
Okay, this is hard for me because I can't really flip pages.
Oh, no worries, yeah. You can just show us your drawings.
Hard. So this is page 1,
Uh-huh.
page 2.
Down pose, pass and pose. Yeah, that looks solid. Very cool. All right. I'm gonna put frame number 1 back on my drawing board. And then I don't have like a character design planned in mind. So I'm just gonna keep with the stick figure person. I'll give him kind of a bean body, but feel free to give him whatever kind of body you want. And then I'll make it a little slimmer in front. Will be nice. Okay. I like using the the bean shape. It's a very popular shape in animation because you'll have the front as a curve and the back curves in a little bit. All the Looney Tunes are some variation of the shape. It's a very Bugs Bunny shape. But feel free to
Naylene,
do
I
whatever
think
shape
you
you want.
mean a pear shape.
Yeah, yeah, a pear shape. Some people call it pear shape too. Yeah. So I'm gonna just say the shoulder is about here. And then because the 8-frame walk cycle is so fast, I like to have the elbows bent on the character the whole time, just so they look like they're kind of speed walking. You know, you'll have your arms up close to your body as opposed to down. But you can try and do down arms if you want to, whichever you prefer. So I'm gonna have the same as before. I'm just gonna draw the elbows bent, and let's just say that's the hand. I'll draw a little circle. So, and then I'll have red for the arm that is on the other side of the character. So it's mostly blocked from the camera. But that's gonna be just like my little stick figure version of hands. Okay, raise your hand if you still need this drawing up on the camera. Okay. So what happens with the down, again, I can't just trace the head in the same place because the head is actually going to be bobbing up and down. So I'm going to have, I want the body to be the same size. So it ends about here. So I'm just gonna, I measured the body with my fingers real quick, and then I'm just sketching it lower. And then also the head is gonna be lower. Again, I'll probably have to go back and make sure that these volumes are consistent, that it's not getting bigger or smaller. There's the shoulder. Now what happens with the down pose is that the arms will actually swing out. So if you think about catching yourself, what do you do with your arms if you're falling and then you suddenly land? Your arms kind of like inflate like a parachute, they swing outwards. So instead of drawing the arms in the same place, even though I'm still gonna do the bent elbow thing, I'm gonna have the arms swing out. So it's gonna go back on the blue arm. And then for the red arm, it's also gonna swing outwards a little bit. I'll make it really exaggerated. Turn off, thank you. If I was drawing the arms, you know, loose, like straight down, they would still swing out, but it would be more like this. Because they're bent, it's just going to go back a little bit this way and then forward. All right, does anybody need this drawing up still? Go ahead and raise your hand. Okay. So here is the passing position. We're kind of up back to where we were on frame 1. So I'm basically just going to trace the body from frame 1. Let me see where I put the shoulder. It's about there, about there. Now for the passing position, the arms are going to start to swing back the other way. Oh, I forgot to mention, so make sure you don't have a goofy armed character. And by that I mean the leg that's in front of the character, the arm on that side should go back and vice versa, right? So that's why you can see it more easily for the down pose. The blue leg is in front, so the blue arm will be in back. And then the red leg is in back, so the red arm is in front. And then as they switch, they're going to start to switch places. So the blue leg is starting to move backwards. So the blue arm is going to start to swing forwards this way in a nice arc like that. And then the reverse is going to happen with the red leg. So this red leg is swinging forward. So the red arm will be swinging backwards like that. I should draw it in. So like maybe the fist is over here. Don't be afraid to just draw. If you know something is going to arc like arms, don't be afraid to just draw the arc right on your sketch, especially if this is just a first sketch to kind of get your poses down. So I would usually swing. Yeah, Scott, that might be a good idea. If you just play the demo animation so we can see the arm swing and how they reverse with the legs. That's what we're trying to imitate. Okay, I don't want to run out of time. So does anybody need the passing position up for longer? Cool. We're going to move on to the up pose. Again, same body size, but the character is going to be shifted up. You can also have the character like bobbing their head while they're walking and stuff like that. But for the main broad movement of the pose, I just try to stick with up and down. And then if I feel like I need to add other movements, I'll add other movements. All right, so this blue arm swinging forward. Now what's going on with the red arm is that it's going backwards. So here's where it was. Let me turn the light off. Here's where it was before. Now I'm thinking maybe it's just hidden behind that character. So I'm not going to draw a red arm for this frame. All right, does anybody need this pose up longer? Cool, so we are on to the next contact pose. Now again, to keep my forms consistent, I'm going to take my drawings out of order again. You don't have to do this. If it confuses you, you can just keep going if you would like. But I'm going to take frame 1 and put it with frame 9, our 2 contact poses. And I'm just going to trace the body because the body is going to be in the same place. If you're working digitally, it's easy to cheat with stuff like this, and you can just like copy paste. Makes that easier. Now I want my up pose so I can see it. Here we go. So the arm keeps going forward, this blue arm. So it's out a little bit further than the frame before it. And then maybe we're gonna see a little bit of the elbow of that red arm poking out. I don't want to get to all of it too quickly because again, the next is going to be the down pose and we want that parachute effect where the arms continue to spread out as the character steps down. All right, does anybody need this drawing visible? Cool. So this is frame 11 that I'm on, the down pose. I guess I could just trace the bodies from all the poses, like just grab the other down pose and just trace where the body is, but I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to wing it. The head goes down, the body shifts down. And then this is the furthest that blue arm is going to be out forward. Something like that. All right, only 2 more drawings left, you guys. Does anybody need this drawing up still? All right, I am on frame 13, which is the passing position. Yeah, this character definitely got bigger. All right, so the body should be a little bit higher than in the down pose. And then now the blue arm is going to start to swing backwards. And then just like we saw a tiny, tiny bit of that elbow on, what was it? The frame 9. It's about the same thing. So we only see a little bit, it swings outwards, and then it starts to swing back in. This is really exaggerated. Maybe I want to make it a little less exaggerated. Okay, and then we are on to the last drawing, which is our up pose. So everything's shifted up. Blue arm is starting to swing backwards. Actually, I should make it more like this. And then I'm not going to draw the red arm because it is hidden behind the character at this point. And then if we want to make sure it loops, we just have to test it against our frame number 1, which for me is at the bottom of the stack. So I'm going to take my papers off. Put frame 1 on top of frame 15 and kind of see how that looks. So I don't want, what I'm looking for is, I don't want the blue arm to be in exactly the same place on frame 15 as on frame 1. I want it to look like it's still moving. So I definitely have my volumes I need to fix because they're different sizes. But, you know, I just go back and fix it. It's about the same. Let me fix that. All right. And once you got that, that is the roughs for all of the main poses of a walk cycle. From here, from here, I would shoot it, or if I'm working digitally, I would play it back. And if I liked the way that everything was moving, I would go in and then do my in-betweens. So all of the even numbered frames that we skipped, so 2, 4, 6, 8, I would draw those, and I would just put, the way I would do that, let me just show you a quick example, because we don't have time to do all of them. But how it works, I just go 2 drawings at a time. So this is drawing 13 and 15. I put, oh, this is different size paper. Let me get the right size. I put a new piece of paper over it and then call it frame 14 because it's going to go in between 13 and 15. I turn on my light or turn on my onion skin if I'm working digitally. And then I would draw a pose that's sort of halfway in between each of these 2 frames that I'm seeing. So I'm seeing one head here and one head here. I would try to put my head in between those 2 positions. So all it would do is that it would smooth out the action so it would look less choppy while being played back. And it takes a little bit of practice, but it's not super hard. It's mostly just time consuming. Then you'd have to do this for every pair. So I have one shoulder here, one shoulder here. I just know the shoulders has to go right in the middle. And I would just go through for each body part. I have one hand here, one hand here. So this hand would go in between. I have the start of one leg here and then the start of one leg here. So I'm going to put it in between. Something like that. And then I would do that until I had all my even numbers, all my even number drawings up to frame, what was it? Frame 16. Okay, we are about to run out of time, my goodness. Are there any questions so far on walk cycles, on anything we went over? It can get complicated. There are a million variations that people can do. So again, we just talked about the difference in timing. So instead of doing one in between, like I just showed you, you could do 2 or 3, and then that would make the walk go slower. You know, you could, some people will add like a double bounce, you know, so they'll throw in another down frame in between. Let me pull out my book. If you are curious and want to know more about walk cycles, highly recommend this book by Richard Williams. It is called The Animator Survival Kit. It talks more about animation in general. But what he does is he breaks down a bunch of different kinds of walks. Most of the book is just illustrating walk cycles like this. And so it makes it really easy to follow along. If you want to try different exaggerated walks or different types of walks, he kind of walks you through that. So if you are wanting to research, yes, Nathaniel, represent. Go through that book. Yeah. Yeah, it's good stuff. That is sort of the basics for, it's a book every animator should have. Even if you're not working with like drawn animation, if you're doing 3D animation or stop motion, because the main thing is getting the pose and the timing, and he gives you all that. So for more than just like the basic walk that we just did. Okay, so I know we are over time. Did anybody have anything additional that they wanted to share that they didn't get to before we wrap up? Just want to make sure we have time for that. And if you don't finish and you want to show next week, you can also show next week too.
Cindy?
Hi, I just I did a quick little flour sack thing here.
Ooh.
Let's see. Get started.
Oh, that's so cute. Yeah, I like that back and forth, one side and then the other side, and the little flappy tassel. Very nice.
And one more real quick. A flag waving.
Ooh, cool. All right, there's a little bit of glare. Oh, very nice. Yeah.
Get the glare
Yeah, it
low.
took me a
Okay,
second to get the flag. I know cameras are the worst sometimes.
I have no idea if that's how a flag actually waves. I didn't really look at any videos.
It looks, no, I like the roll of it. The great thing about like flags and stuff like that is that there's no standard way that they're gonna like wave. So as long as you're paying attention to the action and following through, you know, with like a ripple's gonna be here and then it's gonna go all the way out to the end or whatever,
Right.
you know. Yeah, looks awesome.
Thanks.
All right, did we miss anybody else? Real good. All right, cool. Well, thanks for coming, everybody. I know that Daryl and Boogie are also going to do classes, I think, based around walks for the next 2 days. So if you want to review some of this stuff or experiment with other kinds of walks or other kinds of timing, be sure to check those out too. And then I will see you guys next week. It's more like face oriented too. So I'm excited about that. Oh yes, thanks Scott. If you can donate and you haven't yet and you're enjoying these animation classes, go ahead and check out the link that Scott just put in the chat. We really appreciate all of your donations because then we can keep offering these classes and information for free for everybody. And then if you want to go back and review this class, if it went too fast, or if you want to go back and see what some of the drawings were, the video will be up on YouTube in about a week or so. Scott, do you think?
Actually, hopefully a lot sooner.
Sooner? Oh, okay.
Yeah, but probably, hopefully by tomorrow morning.
Oh, nice. Okay. You're a busy man,
Fingers
Scott.
crossed.
Very
Yes.
efficient. All right. Thank you, everyone, for coming. Hopefully, we'll see you next week. Thank you, Scott, for helping me out.
Absolutely. Thank you. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.